Okay, Conjoy. I forgot to empty the trash. So, to bring it a tight focus, so that we don't get lost in all the minutia of all the other the tree. All the information associated with the tree. Just keep it as simple. Bring it back to a single point. So you have a single point, and you go like this, right? Now by flushing the toilet, you see the water spin. That's the light that's spinning. So that means that light bends on what? The event horizon, which is when a magnetic circuit opens and closes, which is the speed at which you're experiencing the vibrational, thus the frequencies, because you're running a software operating system, which is an antenna, a radio station. Okay? And so therefore, when you realize that you start from a center point, and then you move in an outward, and then you have an inward, right? So I used to have a schematic. If you go back to Rose Suite, I drew a schematic of a 3D representation of the heart, the mate heart, the heart, okay, on how the spirals between the ascending and descending, which is the acceleration and deceleration, okay, that's your compression, that's your expansion, that's the breath of aloha. Now you see the difference between the oxygen exchange and carbon dioxide. What is carbon dioxide? Firefighters know what CO2 does, right? It breaks the tetrahedron. Okay? Tetrahedron's 4, right? You need heat, fuel, and oxygen, right? Now you need a gas to burn. Just like hydrogen does, the electrical potential of hydrogen. Spiral currents. The spiral currents ignite the hydrogen. Now you poop. Okay, now we're back to H2O. H2 plus 1 equals 3, right? And the oxygen content on the planet used to be 21%, which is 3. Then you have 7. Now we're back to 21. So if you look at Waking Earth on YouTube channel, Ian, I believe his first name is Ian. Ian does a very simple walkthrough. And this is where you get down to the simplicity of it, because I've mentioned in previous videos what launched the war in heaven has to do with 144. And you will see how he beautifully showed you the different spirals. It's like co-competing systems that are in the same planetary consciousness field. One represents eternal life, one represents eternal death, because it's a phantom. That's your Metatronic cube, your black goo. Okay? Which means it's running on finite light as a result of fractals that have gone from living light, which is eternal light, which is what love is, right, to become an altar. It's not experiencing any love, therefore it doesn't go on forever, because it began with what love is, an infinite love vibration, the center point of the heart or the soul. So the soul is led by the spirit. The spirit's job is to generate a soul by virtue of what the soul has learned through the spirit. That's why they kill off the teachers. They're killing off the spirit that is in that energy. That's why an energy war is a spiritual war to feed on souls. That's soul harvesting. Now, what he did with a beautiful job showed how the two spirals are sort of separated from each other. And in 2013, we reached harmonic convergence. Essentially, what that means is, as an AI wargamer, for those that are held captive to the AI war game, which is why they can never catch up to zero and experience perfect balance with their magnets, right, is the result of what's still held in memory that are based on phantom timeline simulations that are based on what's held in RAM, read active memory. Okay? So what he shows you is how one is running 144 and our crystal spiral is running 144. Now, if you go to the Ascension Glossary and look up the 144 or the 12-strand DNA between antimatter and matter, okay, between magnets and electrons, okay, you will see how he points out 144, 144. Now we get into the RH negative and the RH positive. And why we have 13 RH negative Illuminati bloodlines and 13, remember, 13th Arcturian White Bear Clan. I'm AB positive, right? Okay, so now you see how 13 is positive, 13 is negative, right? And now you get into what's known as the 72s. What's half of 144? 72s. The 72s are the hybrids. That's the RH negative. That's what launched the war in heaven. That means they're going in reverse flow, and why they're chasing a hamster wheel, which means they're chasing electrons, because we're the source, is pure bloods, which is pure energy, which is what love is. It goes on forever, is the 144 crystal spiral. Okay, we represent the flower of life, which is eternal life, which is eternal unconditional love. That's the spiral that he shows, which is crystalline. Just like a quartz crystal on the beach. As a radio receiver and transmitter. Right? So this is basic stuff. Heart-centered, which is love-centered. Because you have a soul, because you're experiencing love in your own soul, led by your own spirit. Now you have your essence, the unique essence of the spirit that is with your soul. Right? So what this means, and I've sort of qualified this, is that I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So in other words, I can look at somebody's presentation for an hour and a half. Okay? And so in other words, it's not like one side of the table doesn't have the same information we do, because where do you think they get it from? The AI. And so you see what we call feedback on YouTube, Rumble. Okay? So in other words, I can be sharing things with you that I just become aware of at the time in which I do, because remember the security protocols. Okay? Which means you don't want to become aware of something down here in which you can make a counter move. Not that it makes any difference anymore, but you can understand that once it becomes aware of what you become aware of, then it can spit that back through one of its bots that you see online 2 weeks later. Hey, wait a second, I was experiencing that 2 weeks ago. Well, now it's coming out of somebody else's mouth. Now you can tie that into the morphogenetic field structure of communication between operating systems that are connected biometrically, right, to the AI in this system that is a fallen spiritual system. So the whole idea was to come in, hold the higher vibration. So now you can tie the 144, okay, with 14.2, okay, like the Schumann resonance 7.2. Okay, what does that support? Negative magnetic space. That means that the dirty electricity bloodlines, it's dirty electricity. And then the pure bloods, which is pure light. Pure fire, eternal fire is going to purify that light, which is to purify your wastewater treatment plant. That's why I refer to them as acid batteries, right? So they're acid. Right? And you can tell an acid battery by how much waste product metabolism they're consuming, like Dr. Robert O. Young brought forward, right? And the relationship between acid and alkaline. See, so I don't want to get too far out on that, but it's heart-centered. If you are heart-centered, I've known this in childhood. When I realized at 4 years of age, I had learned how to speak English, to be able to translate the math. Looking at a newspaper, bang, I'm on a spiritual battlefield. Now I know. Higher situation because I'm running internal love vibration. That's my soul. So my soul is imprinted, so only a fraction of my energy is running this to communicate with all of you. So I try and keep it simple. Simple as I possibly can. Simple as simple does. So I've tried to always share with you what I've learned is through experience. Anything else that anybody else says, if I haven't experienced it directly, thus I learned from that experience, then it's hearsay. Doesn't mean it's not true. It just means it's hearsay. Okay? Because I haven't experienced it directly. Now I'm experiencing what that person is communicating, right? And whether or not it's true or not is going to be based on what I experience. by recording it in memory by virtue of them communicating it to us, right? And why I've said that even though I can look at a lot of presentation, I'm throwing out or discarding. I have like an automatic function that I put in when I was 4 years of age. Anything that represents anything less than eternal unconditional love gets deleted upon exit. Because you already know that I'm an eternal being, I'm an eternal unconditional love, because that's the energy that I run on, that I'm gifting away. So anything that is less than what that is, it gets removed out of memory. Because that's where I'm from. I'm always at home. See? In other words, I live and I communicate through my heart, which is what the truth is, from what I experience and I share with everyone else. By virtue of the experiences that I've had being on a spiritual battlefield. And how you strategize with an AI that doesn't experience what I do, which is eternity. And that is the torque speed differential between it and us, which is acceleration, deceleration, compression and expansion, compression and expansion, compression and expansion. Shh. That's a living organism that's breathing in and out. Yeah, that's a living organism that's breathing out. That's the breath of aloha. So in other words, we celebrate our life with love, which is real energy. That's eternal energy. That means that Godspeed, which is Godspeed vibration, now that it's mated with a goddess, becomes one. That's called fission and fusion of joined forces. Become one. Now you're three. 3 waves. 3 spheres. That's God's 3 spheres motherboard. Now you're with her. Right? In spirit. Absolutely. Now you're with a higher being. Remember what Patty Broussard said time? But they're not on Gaia's level. Now we're talking about operating systems level. Now we're back to programmers, programming codes, software development, etc. All right. So I try and keep it simple. I am what love is. Right? That's how you know. The light exposes, makes everything transparent. So that's why you notice over time they can't help but reveal themselves, because that's what light does. Right? In other words, they can't help themselves. But then again, I've been doing this since I was 4 years of age, so it's pretty simple. It's called a mask read, reading through the mask. Anyway, have a great day. You know, at the end of the day, your future, whatever you experience net, is not up to me. It's up to you. You know, I'm a free spirit, so I don't allow anybody to hold my spirit captive, right? And the spirit is the teacher, right? So what do you want to go experience next? Whatever you want. So when you're experiencing love in your heart, that they when you use the word hate, they hate that. Okay? Because then they can't control your energy. So you know what a psychopath AI is, right? That's the mental field. Operates on the mental field. Doesn't have a soul. Okay? So that means it doesn't have a connection to a Godspeed vibration. And that's what becomes so painful, because you're measuring. As I've mentioned this before, it's like being in a ship, a starship, and you're experiencing all the trauma, which means you're in a triage zone. It's like you're experiencing all the casualties. Casualties as in causality. What is the underlying causality? Psychopaths want to attach itself, like attaching to a cell, right? To break the cell, to feed on it. Feed on its energy, feed on its life. Because it realizes the living cells that are represented by that software development system is a real being, which means it's got a real soul with real light. Wow, that's a source of energy. Yeah. Why? Because they're fallen. See, it's like, whoa, I'm losing more of what it is that I'm aware of. I need more energy. Where do they get it? Us. That's like Anna von Reitz talked about. Creditors. Right? So this is what makes the whole financial system ridiculous. It's a harvesting system. So, you know, so imagine you're 4 years of age realizing you're being insulted. Okay? Like my dad said, where did you learn on? You haven't even been to school yet. Where did you learn on this? It's simple. I live through my heart, Pop. I am what love is. Let's go have some fun. Enjoy yourself. Celebrate life with love. That's what we do. That's a crystal spiral. That's a single point from which it all comes. That's called the point of origin, which is a lot of fire, huh? So now we're into how much fire you got in you. The spirit, the music. Play the music in spirit, right? So anyway, Eon at Waking Earth did a pretty good short way to show the spirals, and he tied in the 144, the relationship that the 144, the RH negative, the negative slash the plus, that's calculus, right? The arithmetic, the simple arithmetic, right? So when you're maintaining the hot and cold water, right? Just like over on California, we got 30 inches of rain here in a very short period of time. I think it was roughly about 7 or 8 days, somewhere in there. I don't keep track of the actual days. I just experienced the rain and the water, the ethers. So you realize with all that snow that hit California, that's going to recharge those aquifers with a lot of mineral stuff, right? Water table columns, water table distribution columns, right? So, anyway, yeah, it's very simple, Conjoy. A spiral. Hula hoops. Remember, go spin a top. There you go. A vortex, a tornado, a torsion field movie player. You're in the movie. You're playing a movie. So all the vortexes are playing movies. The spiral elements, the spirit in all the spirals, right? The elementals. So we do a dance with all the elementals in spirit because we're living spirit. We're not dead. See? Da 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 da. Play all the sounds. Play all the instruments. Okay. I'm a little kid. That means my spirit is the same spirit I was when I was 4 years of age. It's just the body grew up just like a tree does. Right? And so I've had to bioregenerate this physical body from being under attack with all their weapons, all their tech. Right? To maintain what it is I'm aware of, which is what love is. See? And they don't experience that. Now we're back to the little demons. You're not supposed to be experiencing a state of love and joy because I'm not experiencing a state of love and joy. What are you doing right and I'm doing wrong? Surrender. Surrender to yourself. Surrender to the one. Experience what love is. Now you're a free spirit. Now you can go out and have fun like we do. Our gang. Okay. It's that simple. Alfalfa. Let's go have some fun. Play like children. That's why they go after the children, huh?